Good afternoon or good day for our Australian friends. My name is Heidi and I'm the MC of this academic forum. Can I just tell you, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to our academic forum on micro-credentials in non-formal learning. In this academic forum, we're honored to have invited a panel of international expert speakers from here in Hong Kong and abroad in Australia. They will share and discuss their insights in the role of micro-credentials in non-formal higher education in supporting graduates of the future. The academic forum comprises 2 keynote presentations and 3 panel sharings. We will hear our honorable speakers talk about innovative ways to prepare graduates of the future through micro-credentialings. I'm beyond excited to meet you all here today, although virtually. Whether you're a professional, an educator, or a student, or whatever you are physically right now, thank you for making the time in your busy schedules to join us here today, and a very warm welcome to you all. Before the forum officially begins, please join us in welcoming Professor Reggie Kwan Ching Ping, Vice President and Provost of Hong Kong Metropolitan University, to deliver a welcoming speech. Please welcome Professor Reggie Kwan. Professor Kwan, please.
Well, thank you. Good day, Mr. Albert Chow, Mr. Greg Higgins, Dr. Cecily, Dr. Gregory Choi, Dr. Benjamin Chan, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot tell you how happy I am to welcome you to this academic forum on micro-credentials in non-formal learning. On behalf of the Hong Kong Metropolitan University, I extend my heartfelt thanks to our honorable speakers and guests. Lee Pace is one of the 7 constituent schools of HKMU, tirelessly works to deliver quality, flexible, and innovative vocational and professional education at the post-secondary level. Our commitment to the university's binding mission of making education accessible to all is evident in the extensive range of disciplines and study levels we offer. In recent years, we have observed a surge in interest towards non-formal learning. That is, learning experience outside traditional academic environment. As an integral part of HKMU, Lee Pace continuously explores innovative learning paths to meet diverse needs of today's students. Non-formal learning can include professional development courses, workshops, and training programs, among other avenues. Micro-credentials are emerging as a key player in this educational paradigm shift, offering learners a flexible approach to acquire specific skills and knowledge, and providing universities an opportunity to recognize and certify a variety of learning and learner competencies. Many educational institutions have already embarked on incorporating micro-credentials into their curricula. Today, the forum aims to dive into the latest trends, development, and future micro-credentials in higher education. We are honored to have joined hands with few experts and senior administrators who will share their experiences in leveraging micro-credentials to enrich student learning experience. Central to this forum, the acknowledgement that non-formal learning is a vital facet of lifelong learning. As we gather here today, we aim to uncover the potential of micro-credential in non-formal learning and contribute within our respective roles to the advancement of these innovative educational practices and approaches. I trust we will gain valuable knowledge and insights from the forthcoming presentations, the ensuing panel discussions, and so on. I know you're not here to listen to me, but I do need to reiterate my gratitude to our officiating guests. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to colleagues at Lee Pace for creating this platform that allows us to consider and share new ideas, new perspectives, and new ways of doing things. I wish the forum a great success and hope all participants find this afternoon a rewarding, insightful, and invigorating experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Guang. As a way to express our gratitude and appreciation to our speakers for their generous support of the forum, may I now invite Dr. Benjamin Chen, Dean of LEPACE, HKMU, to present certificates of appreciation to our honorable speakers. May I first invite Dr. Chen to present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Albert Chow, Executive Director of the Hong Kong Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualifications. Mr. Chow, please. Would Dr. Chen and Mr. Chow please look at the camera while we take a screenshot? Thank you. Next, may Dr. Chen please present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Greg Higgins, Enterprise Account Executive, APAC, Credly. Mr. Higgins, please. Would Dr. Chen and Mr. Higgins please look at the camera while we capture this moment? Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Next, we have Dr. Cece Lee, Head of the Language Center in the Hong Kong Baptist University. May Dr. Chen please present Dr. Lee the certificate of appreciation, please. Dr. Lee, please. Please look at the camera for a second, Dr. Lee and Dr. Chen. Last but certainly not least, may Dr. Chen please present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Jeffrey Cho, Learning Advisor in Technological and Higher Education Institute of Hong Kong. Mr. Cho, please. Please look at the camera while we capture this moment, Dr. Chen and Mr. Cho. To mark this memorable event, we'll take a virtual group photo together. May we invite Professor Reggie Kwan, Dr. Benjamin Chan, Mr. Albert Chow, Mr. Greg Higgins, Dr. Cece Lee, and Mr. Jeffrey Cho to join this virtual group photo taking. They will be joined by Ms. C.Y. Sheng, our Executive Director and panelist today, as well as Dr. Kathleen Chim, our moderator of the day. Now, would everyone please position yourself squarely in the frame and look directly at the camera for a few seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. That's perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, I'm sure everyone is excited and looking forward to learning from our distinguished speakers. Without further ado, let me invite our first keynote speaker, Mr. Albert Chow. Mr. Albert Chow is currently the Executive Director of HKCAA VQ. Prior to joining HKCAA VQ, Mr. Chow was the Director of General Administration of Hong Kong Baptist University. He has also served as the Head of Academic Quality Assurance of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University and the Director of Qualifications cum Registrar of the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers. He has broad expertise in higher education and vocational and professional education and training sectors in Hong Kong and beyond. So with a big round of virtual applause, let's invite Mr. Albert Chow to present on proposed approach to promote the development of microcredentials under the qualification framework in Hong Kong. Mr. Chow, please.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Thanks very much for your introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank HKMU, LEPACE, Reggie, Ben, Siwei, and also I'm particularly grateful today. I've got the opportunity to learn from our great fellow speakers, including Greg, Cicely, Jeffrey, Siwei, and also Kathleen as a moderator. So today I would like to share a bit about the development of micro-credentials, some possibilities to do under the Hong Kong qualifications framework. And of course, I'm very much grateful to have the support from the HKMU LEPACE that you have already provided us with the background of all the audience and participants today. And most of the participants today have a very good experience about the background of micro-credentials. So I do not need to talk too much about the background, but directly go to how we will be able to do and to have some suggestions about the development of the micro-credentials framework in Hong Kong under the qualifications framework. Thank you very much. So let me kick off by what I'm going to talk about during this speech. First of all, what are microcredentials? Do we need them? Are we ready to develop them? And also, is there any proposed approach? So the background is that I think we all know that in the past years and also in the last decade, I think we all face a fast changing world with a kind of very rapid technological development that has not been so fast like 10 or 20 years before. So everyone is facing a quick change, and we need to cope with all those rapid changes in the society and to cope with the technological development. And in particular that, I think the COVID-19 has been the enabler to support or advocate online and also flexible learning mode. Now every people around will consider their own needs in the course of the lifelong learning and beyond about their needs of acquiring knowledge, skills for work, for personal development, and to acquire some qualifications during the lifelong learning and also beyond that lifelong learning. So in this connection, the PowerPoint is not working, but I will continue on that. I think everyone is now having a need to proceed with the lifelong learning, and hence we are thinking about whether there are any good ways or flexible ways of learning that are available to all people and all learners, not only in Hong Kong, but all around the world. And then the UNESCO defined micro-credential by looking at some key attributes of micro-credential. And micro-credential is considered to need to have the following features, including a record of focused learning achievement. All micro-credentials need to have an assessment provided by a trusted provider, and every micro-credential need to have its own standalone value, together with the ability to complement with other macro-credentials, and it's quality assured. Against this backdrop, I think the learners around the world and also in Hong Kong need to have flexible and also lifelong learning opportunities. They look for the ways to achieve up to skills, knowledge, and also have their learning recognized for the work purpose and for further studies. And for the employers and also industries people, I think that they were looking for ways to help their colleagues to upskill and reskill their workforce. And also they need clear and credible information about the achievement, learning achievement, and also the skills and competence of their own colleagues in the course of work and beyond. And for all the course providers and also the operators providing opportunities for lifelong learning, they need to know about the relevance of the qualifications they're providing, and also whether the qualifications provide are having recognition from industries and professional bodies. So now in Hong Kong, I think we all know that we have already got a Hong Kong qualification frameworks having been established by the Hong Kong government back to 2008. And now within the Hong Kong qualifications framework, we have got well-defined qualification framework levels, well-defined and established and qualified by the corresponding generic level descriptors. In addition to that, all QF credits are well-defined, having a definition of 1 QF credit equals to 10 notional learning hours. And under the Hong Kong qualifications framework umbrella, we have got well-defined guidelines on credit accumulation and transfer. We have established qualification register hosted by HKCAVQ for public information all quality assured qualifications that have been volunteered to put on the Hong Kong qualification registers. And all of this are quality assured. The HKCVQ has provided relevant accreditation standards and also the relevant accreditation service to support all the qualification providers who would like to put up the qualifications on the Hong Kong qualification registers. Now, we are in the good progress of developing a digital credential hub in Hong Kong. We are going to launch the pilot testing version for all people in Hong Kong and all providers in Hong Kong, probably at the end of this month or so. The digital credential hub will help all learners who are interested to put up their e-personal portfolio in a blockchain platform in which he or she can authorize employers or any people to look at their portfolio with their authorization. In addition to that, the digital credential hub will help all learners in Hong Kong with the support of the qualification providers to have authentication of their qualifications in our digital credential hub blockchain platform. In addition to that, in the Hong Kong Qualifications Framework, the Qualifications Framework Secretariat has done a great job in engaging industries to line up with them and make sure that the work within the Hong Kong Qualifications Framework are really supporting the workforce, are really supporting the industries. So with all this background, when we look about what is the starting point of having to develop the micro-credential framework in Hong Kong. So we will probably advocate that the starting point of having a micro-credential framework in Hong Kong be established, leverage upon the existing infrastructures, bearing upon the Hong Kong Qualifications Framework, Qualification Register, and also all the background work that has been established in Hong Kong. And then the second question about how to develop micro-credentials framework in Hong Kong, we need to look at whether we have got the basic conditions. That is, whether we have got sufficient building blocks for developing micro-credentials in Hong Kong. When we look at an initial analysis of the qualification register in Hong Kong, one can find out that with all the qualifications framework and also QR qualified by around 8,700 qualifications in Hong Kong, more than 3,000 of them are within 30 QF credits. So with this huge amount of so-called small qualifications in terms of the credit size, that we got all the building blocks to support the development of micro-credentials in Hong Kong. I think that is very important. In a lot of different other economies or jurisdictions, they may not have a huge number of the building blocks for micro-credentials that have been included in the framework in its own jurisdiction or economy. What's the aim of having micro-credentials? At the end of the day, I think we all look for the support of micro-credentials to make the qualifications framework even better and more effective and more efficient in the sense of the articulation of academic, vocational, professional, continuing professional development, and also recognition of prior learning qualifications. We want to support learners to minimize their efforts in the duplications of learning in the course of lifelong learning and also beyond. So with the existing framework, the development of micro-credentials have a key role on how to further support the articulation of different kinds of qualifications, and also how to minimize the efforts of learning by the learners by having an even better articulation in terms of credit accumulation and transfer between qualifications. Do we have any good experience in Hong Kong under the existing Hong Kong qualifications framework that will be useful to have some initial taste to support us to the development of micro-credentials? Yes, we have. We've got a lot of relevant experience in Hong Kong. First of all, I will name Vocational Qualifications Program, VQP. We have got a lot of vocational qualification programs accredited by HKCAVQ under the Hong Kong Qualifications Framework and Hong Kong Qualification Register. Like, for example, in the banking, certificate in banking for customer service officers, or in the elderly service, the certificate in the healthcare worker, certificate of training for home managers, and also diploma in the integrative healthcare for the elderly and rehabilitation status, just to name a few. With this kind of VQPs that have been accredited by HKCVQ under the qualifications framework and also the qualification register, we have got an early taste on the benefits of having micro-credentials. Those micro-credentials grouped together become a whole qualification, while these qualifications, we call it VQP, serve directly to the purpose of employment and even the government requirement for work. So I think this is very, very good early tastings on how we'll be able to use micro-credentials to group them together for the work purpose and also supporting the workers and also learners to acquire the skills and also knowledge in the course of lifelong learning and beyond. We have a very distinguished program offered by the Hong Kong Institution of Bankers in qualifying certified banker in Hong Kong. And the learners can acquire the qualifications from QF level 4 to 6. Initially, the program was conducted in the form of a program type, and now they have been in the form of the recognition of prior learning type, and the learners can group their RPL qualification stage by stage and achieve at the end of the day at the QF level 6 as a certified banker. So we have been initially test out the use of micro-credentials in Hong Kong, even at the fully qualified professional level. And other examples, are very distinguished examples, as demonstrated by the Employees Retraining Board, their credit and accumulation transfer schemes. The full-time foundation certificate in healthcare worker training is mirrored by the exact part-time mode of the same program, but break down into different sub-micro-credentials. And the learners can use their flexible time and space to group together and to accumulate together all the programs award in the part-time mode, and then group together becoming the full-time foundation certificate in care worker training. This is also a very good, I would say, initial taste of having the use of micro-credentials in Hong Kong under the existing Hong Kong qualification frameworks and qualification register, even though now we do not have a formal micro-credentials framework in Hong Kong. When we look at the work in the other countries, we find out that in Australia have already got the micro-credential framework well established. In Malaysia, the MQA has already fully implemented the micro-credential in its own accreditation and qualifications framework. In US and Canada, a number of universities have already got some early trials on the use of micro-credentials, engaging industries in the formation of the degree programs. Also, finally, I think this is very important that EU, the European Community, has agreed to target to achieve a micro-credential frameworks that have been able to allow the use of micro-credentials among all the European EU countries by 2025. With all this emerging trend, we advocate that we need to work and also catch up with the global trend. We also need to address the local market needs, explore all the facilitating measures where necessary and appropriate to support the development in Hong Kong, and as far as possible to leverage the existing infrastructure of the qualifications framework, qualifications register, and also quality assurance arrangements in Hong Kong, and do not need to reinvent all the wheels. We have a number of considerations when we would like to talk about the development of micro-credentials in Hong Kong. So, of course, we need to think about what is the definition of micro-credentials in Hong Kong? What is the credit size for the micro-credentials in Hong Kong? How are we going to articulate? What are the stackable rules governing the transfer of micro-credentials? What kind of information we need to provide to the learners and also the employers in terms of supporting the development of micro-credentials? What is the role of the government in providing facilitation measures and so also recognition for micro-credentials? And finally, do we need a very much streamlined QA procedures in governing micro-credentials? At the end of the day, what we could look at is that we would like to have a successful development of micro-credentials framework in Hong Kong and also the implementations. What we need to look at first of all, do we have a very simple framework of micro-credential that leverage upon the existing infrastructure of QF and also QR, where this simple micro-credential framework can accommodate all the stackable rules governing the grouping of different small qualifications to become a large one, and also the breakdown of large one into the small one. Do we need to have some modifications or enhancement or refinement of the existing credit and accumulation transfer rules to support the articulation of academic, vocational, professional, continuing professional development, and RPL qualifications in a seamless manner? And also at the end of the day, do we need a fully streamlined QA framework that have been enabling the operators, the providers, to have the easiest ways to form their own micro-credentials? And finally, how will we be able to recognize that within the existing qualifications framework and also the QR in Hong Kong? So how we were going to do that? So I think that we need the support of all stakeholders, only including learners, but in particular industry, the employers. We need the employers' participation. We need the industry participation to get into the development of micro-credentials together with the institutions and also the operators. So we need a very efficient and effective framework supported by a very cost-effective QA framework, and finally recognition and support measures provided by the government. I think that's all essential. So finally, I would look for is that I think your support, your help are very essential in the course of a user-friendly micro-credential framework and also the corresponding implementations in Hong Kong. I will advocate that we need a very user-friendly framework in Hong Kong, a very cost-effective implementation in Hong Kong, in particular on the QA procedures. And at the end of the day, what we are going to benefit are not only learners, and while the learners will be able to minimize the duplication of the learning efforts in the course of lifelong learning and beyond. And at the same time, the employers and the industries will be able to benefit by an industry-relevant implementation of micro-credential frameworks, that they will not only be able to engage with them, but also benefit with them, have all the credible information they know from the framework, the type of qualifications that are beneficial to them in supporting the development workforce. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albert Chow, for your very inspiring and enlightening talk. Our next keynote speaker of the day is Mr. Greg Higgins. Mr. Higgins is a highly experienced senior business executive with a track record of creating and leading high-performing global award-winning teams working at the intersection of emerging technology and learning. As Credly digital credentialing expert for the Asia-Pacific region, Mr. Higgins helps universities, polytechnics, and other organizations navigate a path to developing a robust digital credentialing strategy, one that helps students get closer to job opportunities by making their skills and achievements highly accessible to future employers, and in a universal skills language that they understand. Prior to joining Credly by Pearson, Mr. Higgins was the founder and CEO of a venture capital-backed edtech startup, working in data science and learning analytics to help universities identify students at risk of not completing, to reduce student attrition. Mr. Higgins was also a senior executive with TAFE, New South Wales, one of the world's largest vocational training organizations. Mr. Higgins created and was head of the Digital Learning Lab, where his team of 20 were named Platinum Medal winners at the 2020 IMS Global First at TED Learning Impact Awards, and finalist in the 2019 Reimagine Education Awards London. Mr. Higgins is going to talk about digital credentialing, telling the whole story of a learner's competence and driving engagement and growth for tertiary education institutions today. With his experience, I'm sure we'll learn a lot from his insights. So without further ado, I give the floor to Mr. Greg Higgins. Mr. Higgins, please.
Thank you very much for that very warm introduction, Heidi. I appreciate that. Can I start by just acknowledging how honoured I am to be here and to share the screen with such an esteemed list of participants who feel, I'll be honest, a little bit intimidated by, because there's a lot of smart people in the room. So I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that and thank you for having me along to talk to you today. So I am talking about digital credentialing in the context of the whole story, and that whole story really being, as Heidi said, the opportunity for a student to be able to tell more to a potential future employer, or for the next step of their learning pathway, that they're more than just the last certificate that they've earned, right? So it's the whole story of their skills and abilities, but also as a tool to drive learner engagement and growth for universities. So I am from Pearson, and I am going to present this from the lens of solving the workforce skills challenge. So what I'd like you to consider is we already know from multiple data points and research and analytics that's telling us that 1 billion people will need to be reskilled by 2030. 30% of jobs are at risk of automation by 2030, and 83% of organizations are experiencing a skills gap. So to address that, Pearson formed a group called Workforce Skills. Now, I'm sure that there's many people on this call that are familiar with Pearson. We are the world's largest learning company. This is actually the second time that I've worked for Pearson. I worked for Pearson for 8 years in the higher education division many years ago. But to address that skills challenge, there's a shift in our organization. And that shift is the very bottom of that, the last paragraph on that slide. Our shift is that we want to do more to help organizations make better decisions based on trusted information about what people know and can do. So workforce skills is the coming together of 3 industry-leading technologies that you see on the right-hand side. I'll call out 2 of them specifically. Fathom, which is a future-looking predictive analytics and AI company started in Australia. It focuses on tools like strategic workforce planning, future capability modeling, job corridors, skills assessments. And then Credly, which many of you would be familiar with, which is the world's largest network of people with verified skills. So we're bringing these technologies and more together as our way to really accelerate one global mission to build that future of work that's driven by what we understand people know and people can do. And I just thought it's worth explaining where the Pearson piece sort of fits in when I talk about Credly. More specifically to Credly, which is the world's leading digital credential provider. Just some numbers to call out in context of, I think, why it's important for someone like us to have a seat at the table. Because if you consider 74 million credentials that have been earned and issued and managed on our platform, in that context and that scale, we've actually helped the world develop a common language when they're talking about skills. And with such a high amount of digital credentials being issued by different organizations and types of companies around the world, the sharing of those credentials is quite significant. So 650,000 digital credentials issued on Credly are shared every month by badge or credential earners. When I say shared, I mean shared on social media, for example, like LinkedIn and other sites, making the visibility of their newly acquired and verified skills more accessible. When I talk about being more accessible, the skills being accessible, they're more public, they're faster to share, and the immediacy upon completing or being verified for that skill, you can be highly visible in the job market by the nature of sharing a digital credential. And also, it's important. Well, it's great that we've got such scale, but the service has to really back that up. So we do often talk about a net promoter score being 75, which is really considered world-class on the NPS scale. A lot of that is in context of how we work, where we have a customer success team who really work in partnership with institutions in particular to make sure that the thinking behind what's the end goal. If we're going to start issuing digital credentials to students because of our new micro-credentials that we're building, what's the ultimate goal that the issuing organization wants to achieve? So we sort of start at the end point and work back and make sure that we hold your hand through that kind of process. That's why we've got the high score. I'm sure many of you have probably seen or probably even earned a Credly badge. And that's because we're really trusted by the world's most recognized brands, whether it's associations, businesses, training, education, and government. There's one thing that all of these highly identifiable brands have in common, and that is the reason that they chose to partner with someone like Credly and not do it internally or not choose a smaller organization, is the authenticity and the security that's actually built into the platform. In fact, we're actually the only platform in the world that has 3 ISO certifications relating to quality and data and privacy, data security and privacy. So it's because of that, it's no surprise that we do have 95% of the world's top 200 tech companies like Microsoft, IBM, AWS for all of their certification using us as well. So trust is quite a key thing as well. But this is not meant to be a promotional sales piece on Pearson. The reason I covered that was to explain the connection between Credly and Pearson. What I wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive in is, I guess, share what's happening in my neighborhood here in Australia that could help form your thinking around what's happening in Hong Kong and broader than Hong Kong. You will notice on a few of the slides coming that there will be a QR code. The QR code will take you directly to some of the information that I'm sharing here. So here we are in Australia, or here I am. I actually live, if you can see my red dot on the screen, I'm not sure if that works with Zoom. I'm more of a Teams guy, but that's okay. I live somewhere around here on the red dot, which is a bit south of Sydney in a beautiful place called Port Macquarie. I'm currently coming to you though from Melbourne down here. So I'm here at the EdTech conference, one of Asia Pacific's largest education technology conferences starting tomorrow, 10,000 people. But I'm sharing this screen because I want to talk about the National Microcredential Framework. So this was part of the 2020/2021 Job Ready Graduates package. So it was the Australian government announcing $4.2 million to develop what they called a microcredentials marketplace. This was intended to be a nationally consistent platform for students to compare short course offerings and understand the credit point value from those offerings to help inform their decisions post high school. In early 2021, the Marketplace project conducted user research with a variety of learners, higher education providers, and employers. And the research highlighted the lack of a national framework in our country was actually a key barrier to the development of micro-credentials. Before this work started, there wasn't a lot happening in that space. So released in 2022, the National Micro-Credentials Framework, that's what you can see on screen here. The QR code will take you to the document where you can download it. It provides greater clarity and understanding within the tertiary education sector and amongst learners as to the value, structure, and the recognition of micro-credentials, so how they're actually recognised in education and in industry. And they provided a somewhat useful definition of a micro-credential. The definition is that a micro-credential is a certification of assessed learning or competency with a minimum volume of learning of 1 hour and less than an Australian Qualification Framework award qualification that is additional, alternate, complementary to, or a component part of an Australian Qualification Framework award qualification. Now, you might have understood why I said somewhat useful description. I think the best part of this description is the first half of that paragraph. I can really understand what they mean by it's a certification of something that's being assessed. So it's proof of the learning or the competency, and it has a minimum volume of learning of 1 hour. I understand that. The second bit, I'll paraphrase that. The second bit basically means all of that is less than an award qualification. So it's less than a diploma, or it's less than a degree, or it's less than a postgraduate. So it's less than an actual endpoint of a qualification. And therefore it can be complementary to an existing qualification. It could be an alternative outcome to a qualification, or it could be a part of a qualification. So it's a certification of something that's assessed. It's taken 1 hour to complete, and it's either separate to an actual full award of a qualification, if that makes sense. And I think with that understanding, it sort of helps. It helps the rest of the market in Australia, and particularly those outside of higher education as well. It helps them understand, I guess, the baseline. If we're going to call something a micro-credential, we've now got a common language here to help us understand what that is. And that's important because it helps students understand when they're looking to make their first move post the completion of high school. Fast forward to 2023, and the Australian government announced an additional $18.5 million to fund 28 new microcredentials from 18 universities targeting in-demand jobs. And a third round of funding is planned before the end of July next year. So the message here is the approach to address the skills gap in Australia. The federal government understands the value in microcredentials and is investing heavily in the space. And as a result of that, Microcred Seeker, so that marketplace that I mentioned before, Microcred Seeker has launched, which is that marketplace for students to browse and compare microcredentials available in Australia from higher education providers, but other training providers as well. And that QR code will take you to the Cred Seeker. One of those universities that are featured on Cred Seeker and part of this framework process is Deakin University. So Deakin University, this is their course page in Credly, and I'm actually, just to make this a little bit more visible, this is what it looks like. So Deakin University have, let's see, they have 308 digital credentials or badges. The platform calls them badges. And we can see they're using them for awards, they're using them for training and teamwork. Most organizations, particularly universities, will curate their digital badges into collections to make it really easy for students in particular to find out what categories are these digital credentials or digital badges in. And the one I want to draw your attention to is this one on the right called Stackable Short Courses. And I will go back to the PowerPoint in a second that's got the QR code so you can go to this. So Deakin University have a collection of digital credentials or badges that they call Stackable Short Courses. And the description here that I want to draw your attention to is this. So these credentials are awarded to learners who successfully complete learning and formal assessment that aligns with the Australian Qualifications Framework Level 9, which is master's level, and it provides learners with a bankable credit of 0.5 credit points. So in a very, very simple sentence, if I'm a student, I understand these are master's level units, and any of these I complete, I will be awarded 0.5 credit points. And I can browse through the range here. And what it will do, without going into it, but let's say I'm doing a master's in finance and I'm wanting to specialize in leadership. So before micro-credentialing, before digital credentialing, I would just choose I would have my core units that I need to complete, and I would have a selection of electives that I can choose. But I couldn't really share any visibility to the market until I actually finished my qualification with my certificate at the end. So what we can do now, we can actually go and actually choose digital transformation leadership. I can choose innovation and leadership, sustainable leadership. So I can curate short stackable micro-credentials with validation after each one that I complete that shows my specialization in this space. Back to my PowerPoint deck. That's the QR code if you'd like to look at that in more detail. So why is that important? Well, because it makes my skills visible and I get noticed sooner in the job market if I'm sharing these digital credentials to show that I'm already on that pathway of that specialization. Another example of why that's important, I'd like to introduce you to Surv. So Surv Saha. Surv is a digital badge earner who's actually earned digital badges from Credly. Surv works in systems admin in the context of information communications technology and in IT. One of the first digital badges, or one of the early digital badges Surv earned, was from Purdue Global University, and it was called the Get Happy Micro-Credential. Now, this micro-credential is all about examining research-based approaches or evidence-based approaches to understanding happiness and how it works. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's probably the coolest micro-credential I've ever heard of. But back to Surv, live view. Surv has now gone on to earn 50 different badges. So this is Surv's earner page in Credly. So if I'm a university and I issue my first Credly badge to a student, once that student accepts that badge, if they don't already have a Credly account, they'll create one really quickly when they accept that badge. And that account, like this one that Surv has, stays with them for life. Even if that university decides no longer to issue digital badges with Credly in future, it doesn't matter. Any badges that the individual earner has accepted are theirs in their portfolio. Some might call it a bank account or a wallet. This is Surv's wallet. So if Surv is applying for a role with my organization to work in infrastructure management, technical support, he could send me a link to his portfolio, and at a very quick glance, I can see he has qualifications and certifications from AWS, from Microsoft, from VMware, from Cisco, from IBM, from the Project Management Institute, from Google. The list goes on and on and on. And this follows Surv every step of his professional development. So Surv is a perfect example of a student who can actually who can actually use the platform as a really powerful tool to help them be more visible in what is otherwise a crowded job market. So thanks to Surv for sharing that with us. I want to do a bit of a pivot now to another university that's using Credly. So this is RMIT, one of Australia's original universities, and also now the biggest university in Vietnam. RMIT have a lot of digital badges. Most of these, it says they're 223. A lot of these are co-developed with industry, and these are standalone short courses that aren't technically part of a. They're not part of a. They're not part of a degree or a graduate degree. They're short courses in business finance, managing time and priorities, and as I said, they've been co-developed with industry. And I wanted to share how powerful issuing digital credentials can be to drive brand awareness and to drive enrollment growth for the university. So every month, well, sorry, not every month, when an earner shares a badge from your college or your university, it's a meaningful brand impression. And we actually, as I said before, more than 650,000 credentials are shared every month, making digital badging a really strong marketing channel with a ROI for a learning institution. So what happens when we look at the sharing from these RMIT courses in particular? A bunch of courses, they're around about $1,200 as an enrollment fee. Now I've done the math here, and I've actually counted average in a quarter, so the last 3 months. In a quarter, the number of students that share a post, just like the one you can see here by Michelle, is 360. So 360 students on average per quarter are sharing a post just like this to be more visible in the market. Now, I'm not going to do it for time here, but if you go onto any of these shares and you click on that post, it will take you to Michelle's learner page where you can learn about what the assessment criteria was, what the skills were that she's learned, and there's also a button to click to learn more and enroll in the course through RMIT's website. So there's a direct link for people that are discovering it. Talking of discovering, more than 2,500 interactions or comments are seen on these 360 student posts every quarter. So that's individual interactions down here and or comments. Now, if just 1% of these people, otherwise invisible to RMIT, if just 1% of them clicked into this badge, clicked earn this badge to enroll in that course, RMIT would enroll 25 new students for that quarter and generate enrollment revenue of just over $30,000. So it's a really practical example of how, I'm not saying that's the revenue they are making. This is, if they had a 1% conversion, that's the number that would actually result to drive growth. And you can see the sharing in real time. If you go to LinkedIn and if you type in view my verified achievement, RMIT, you will actually see all of these posts and you will scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll because it's that prolific. That's 19 minutes and 30 seconds, which leaves me 30 seconds to say we have a wealth of not material about Credly, but it's material around thought leadership, right? So we have a lot of white papers around how to get started in this space if you haven't actually started yet, and some things to be aware of in terms of how to really boost student engagement. So I do encourage you to see that. This is all from info.credly.com. There's a range of assets there. And I'm more than happy to answer anybody's questions. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, that's a link to my LinkedIn. But again, thank you so much for having me join today.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins, for your stimulating and informative sharing on digital credentialing. And now we enter our panel presentation section. Today, we have a total of 3 presentations by 3 seasoned higher education practitioners of various institutions to share their ideas of microcredentials in non-formal education. Our first speaker is Mr. Jeffrey Cho. Currently a learning advisor at DI, under the Learning Commons Library of DI, Mr. Cho previously worked in the Hong Kong Polytechnic University as a career advisor for students under the Students Affairs Office from 2016 to 2021. He possesses rich experience in working with students in terms of teaching and also their whole person development modules at Ivy, VTC. He also worked as a recruitment specialist in the airline industry. Mr. Cho will present on connecting with students and staff, the digital badges scheme at DI, sharing his personal experience in implementing digital badges in his institution. Mr. Cho, please.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Thank you for your introductions. First of all, let me just share the screen first. Hope it works. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Jeff, and I'm the Learning Advisor at DI, the Technological and Higher Education Institute of Hong Kong. It is my pleasure today to share some of our experience in implementing the digital badges scheme at DI. And it's my honor to be here and to share our experience with all the professionals. Today, I will mention a little bit of our difficulties we encounter when communicating to fellow colleagues and also students when we are implementing the scheme. So just to share a little bit of background, the scheme only started 2 years ago in 2021, and we are running in our 3rd year this year. So initially, it was just an assignment given by my boss, which is the head of the library. And one day he showed me student apps of a students from a university in the US. And he showed me that the apps not only show the students' portfolios, the program that they have enrolled and complete, they also show that the student participated in a lot of different kinds of activities, for example, gym class, volunteering work, things, activities like that. And it shows that they earn badges and after they completed the activity. So, and they can share it on their Instagram and Facebook account. So it is something that really amazed us. So he asked me whether we can do something similar in DI, but without any budget, since it is a pilot scheme. So we were scratching our heads and think of, okay, what kind of platform we can put it on so student can see it, and it will be quite user-friendly for the staff to add records and to boost the engagement activities from the students. At the time, it was the height of the COVID pandemic. So students at that time tend not to engage in any kinds of extracurricular activities. They only focus on their online classes and kind of like disappear from the campus. So we were thinking of a way to motivate them at the time, to hopefully to get them to be more enthusiastic in participating extracurricular activities. So here are some statistics that we have got from last year. So last year, in the second year of running the scheme, we have issued around 1,000 digital badges. It was 922 to around 571 students in DI. Actually, in DI, we have quite a small student population. We only have about 2,000 students, both part-time and full-times. And collectively, from all the departments and faculties, we have organized 79 activities in total. So this is just like a modest results that we have achieved so far. So when we were setting up the scheme, first, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what's the objective? And who is it for? And what's the motivation for students to join? So from a student perspective, we want to set up a scheme that recognize their contributions in participations. So they dedicate their time and efforts in participating in various kind of extracurricular activities, and we want to find a way to recognize them. Over the student life, when they study in our institute for 4 years to complete their degree, sometimes they often lost track of what they have been participating on. And since there's no platform or no system to record what they have been doing, so therefore the scheme serve as a system for students to monitor their records, and also to hopefully the records itself can motivate them to participate in more diversified learning. Now, from a staff perspective, as a staff myself, we often focus only on organizing the activity. Sometimes we don't know what other departments or programs are organizing for their students. Sometimes not until we see their promotional materials appear on the internet or on the poster wall. Then we find out that we are doing something in a similar nature. We are doing pretty much the same thing. For example, we are running CV workshops, company visit, alumni sharing, that kind of activities. Sometimes even in the same week or even on the same date. So we want to definitely, we want to minimize the confusion for the student, and we want to have more coherence and avoid the duplication of efforts. So from the staff perspective, we hope the scheme can serve as a centralized platform for everyone to see. So then we need to think about, okay, what the award scheme means for the students. Okay, so maybe at the end they get an iPad or some cash, some coupons for earning the most badges. but still we wanted to make it more meaningful. So instead of giving students the same badges every time they complete an activities, we would like to create, we would like to create a meaning for them. So we categorize the different attributes that students are expected to get after they graduate from DI. So we adopt the 6 DI's graduate attributes. That was actually highlighted in the student handbooks. But we want to make it, we want to highlight it again in this scheme. So here are the 6 attributes: the independent learner, problem solver, the effective communicator, professionally, socially, and globally responsible, positive and flexible, and informed and professionally competent. It all sounds very complicated at the beginning, especially sometimes staff ask us, what does independent learners mean? So we actually spend some time talking to staff or communicating to staff that if you, for example, if you organize an activities, what kind of badges you can award based on the nature or the expected outcome of the activities. So yes, we sometimes talk to staff and communicating to staff about what the badges actually means, and then we find a suitable badges to award to give to the students at the end. So we hope that the student, by participating in a wide range of activities, they can enrich their learning portfolio while studying in DI. And the student can actually print out, or they can review their transcript before they attend an interview, for example, for graduate jobs or for internship. So I think by encouraging students to consolidate their experience is the important first steps, because often in an interview, students mention a lot of things, but they forgot sometimes the most valuable thing, which is their learning experience. So from the employer perspective, they might want students who can articulate their learning gains from those learning experience, which is more important than just showing them the certificates or a piece of paper during the interview. I think the attributes itself serve as a reminder which the student, what the student has achieved during the course. So in implementing the scheme, I think the first and foremost important things is to get the staff and the management on board first. And we need to tell them what is it for, why staff need to spend extra efforts in doing it. Actually, we find out as a staff myself, we often focus in organizing the activities, like, for example, the content of the activities, the rundown of the program, things like that. And after completing the activities, we need to focus on the evaluation of the activities, how the students feel, what do they learn, that kind of things. But I think we also need to tell them, okay, so here's the scheme. It is quite easy to access and use. So we want to tell them we want to minimize the administrative work as well. So the scheme actually serves as a recognition, which is worth giving it to the students for those who attend the activities in a voluntary basis. Again, we want to make it as simple as possible for staff by minimizing the administrative work. So for staff who just joined the scheme, okay, we have to give them a lot of guidance of course, but as the administrator myself, sometimes we will help the staff to submit their records, their attendance records into the system. So for my strategy is just to get them on board first, get them to participate first, and let them see how easy it is. It is not that complicated to use, and students can see the results instantly from their portal and find it useful as a record of achievement, which they actually own. So here's some interface that the student or the staff can see from their systems. Actually, the IS is currently adapting a student portal called My Portal under the VTC system. The portal system is quite old, but this is what we have available at the moment for staff to add records to the student records, and students can view their individual records and download the records from the system. So it is old, but still everybody have been using it and everybody understand how to use it. So to introduce the scheme, I think it is important to find an existing platform which staff is already familiarized with, and also students as well. So I work with the IT teams who maintain the systems, and to add the abbreviation of the 6 badges into the system. So for staff, if they submit a record, they can just submit the abbreviation, and then the student can recognize it, and then it will be shown on their platform. So it is important for students, it is important to raise their awareness, although they're at the receiving end, but we need to promote the scheme rigorously to the student and let them know it is valuable to have an ownership of your learning profile, because before that, there aren't any. So student, maybe they just remember, I have participated in certain programs, or volunteer work, but they haven't actually received anything from the school. So we find that students often forget what they have done until they need to stop take and to consolidate their learnings, especially before finding a jobs, graduate jobs as well as internship. So they sometimes approach us and say, okay, I have qualified. I'm about to graduate, but what can I say about my student life? So I tell them, okay, recall the activities that you have participated and find some meaning, find some relevancy to the work that you are applying. And the message we have for our students is there are always things that you can do which might be meaningful or valuable to what you want to achieve in life. For example, studying a professional software certificate outside of the curriculum might be a piece of important evidence for you to tell your potential employer that you have the competency, as well as you have the strong interest in IT. And for example, we have students who are qualified in the hospitality industry. So sometimes it's not enough just to show the employer that I'm qualified from hotel management. You need to tell them that you're a people person. So how can you show that you're a people person? Maybe by participating in volunteer work, and it might be an indicator for people to understand that you understand people's feelings. You also understand some of the social issues in the community as well. So we tell students, why don't you start keeping a portfolio of your own and start to build up on it? Okay, and this is what the student can see from the portal. So they submit, they log in, and they log into the activity history, and they can find out the activities they have participated, the date, the duration of the activities, and most importantly, the badges and the attribute they have received after completing the activities. And also, before the graduates, they can still use their student ID to log into the systems, and they can print out this non-academic transcript. And it also highlights the activities they have joined, the badges they have received, and the date as well. So it is something for them to take away and to keep. So to be honest, after seeing the presentation from Mr. Higgins, it would be ideal for us to have something like an app or something like a digital platform for students. For example, after they completed an activities, there will be prompt messages appear on their phone, and there are updates on activities that they can join. We would love to have a system like that, to be honest. But at the moment, this is what we have. And then we have to rely on very simple portal systems, and also we use a traditional email to communicate with students. And also whenever we have an activity, we always try to remind students about the digital badge scheme. I think also staff, we need to motivate them to to organize activity under the scheme as well. So getting the student aware of what's going on whenever they receive a badges, and at the end of the month, we will send them an email. I think that's important, telling them what's going on. And also monitoring this, mentioning the scheme on the activities promotion as well is the key, because students need to know this activity is under the scheme and they can earn badges from it. And letting them know where to check their records is also important. So these are the 3 areas of focus we try to communicate to students, and ultimately we need to find out what student really wants, and to make sure it is a personal experience to earn their badges and to manage their own learning records as well. So it is a continuous effort to communicate to staff and students, definitely. As we have new students, new staff every year, existing students may forget, and staff may be too busy and they forget about the step of inputting the information. So it is a continuous effort to remind them about the scheme. So when they organize an activities, they think about, okay, what to award to the what awards to give to the students. So for the student, it might not be for the student, from the student perspective, although it might not be the most important part of their study life, but it is a useful reminder. We want to tell students that learning doesn't only come from the classroom. Learning also comes from everyday life. And like everything else, it requires self-initiative and commitment to achieve it. So it is definitely is valuable to spend extra efforts on extracurricular learning, not just in classroom, not just only related to your subjects, but also many other things, which is make your university life, college life colorful. And for staff, we want to remind each other that we can work cohesively and to create a fruitful learning opportunity for the student as well. So I hope that is something that I think I have covered pretty much everything about the scheme. So thank you very much. This is the end of my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cho, for your first-hand experience in implementing a digital badge scheme. May I now invite Dr. Ceci Lee for our second panel presentation. Dr. Lee has been teaching English at the Language Center in the Hong Kong Baptist University. She holds a PhD in Applied Linguistics from Lancaster University. Serving currently as the head of the center, she has supervised numerous projects and academic programs. Her recent projects are on engaging students in cross-level peer tutoring in academic writing and nurturing global citizenship through English. Dr. Lee will talk about visualizing and validating knowledge and skills through a digital credential program. Dr. Lee, please.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Heidi, for your warm introduction. And thanks to previous speakers, I've learned a lot for your inspiring talks. And I would like to share with you today a digital credential program we have introduced in Hong Kong Baptist University Language Center in partnership with Credly. And thanks to Mr. Higgins for your inspiring talk, and thanks for being willing to collaborate with us. We were still learning. It's a very small program. Okay, I'm going to just, my talk is going to be simple. I'm going to talk about the context in which the program was introduced, and also how we designed the program, and just finally how we are going to move forward. Okay, so first the context, and as I said, well, I'm from Hong Kong Baptist University, which is, relatively a small university with more than 11,500 students, and then if you look at the vision statement, and this is our vision statement, and it's not difficult to see the softer skills that the university wants to emphasize. We're a liberal arts university, first of all, and then we want our graduates to be caring, to be creative, to be interculturally competent, among other skills. And we also have a set of graduate attributes as well, as Jeffrey has shared with your institute as well. I'm from Language Center, and our scope and scale much smaller and narrower, and so we in addition to Chinese and English, we teach 5 foreign languages, but at the same time we offer a diverse range of language enhancement programs and activities and services, in which we wish to develop students' soft skills and communication, of course. Language is a very important part of the communication. So we want our students to have a communication skills, but in addition, we want our students to be able to negotiate, to work in a team. According to a report by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which is, was published quite 5 years ago, entitled "The Future of Work and Skills." And 2 most important skills the individuals, according to the report, should develop are digital skills and soft skills. I got to say that 5 years ago, now with ChatGPT, and the report was visionary. And then a more recent survey also indicates that, with the AI joining the workforce, and employers, or close to 60% of employers, say that they are going to prioritize skills in when hiring. More than 65% of the employers were saying that they're looking for uniquely human skills. And then previous job experience also an important consideration, and when they're making hiring decisions. So, and the survey also found that soft skills are lacking among graduates. And I just saw this, more recent, basically was released in June, a report entitled "A Future of Jobs Report 2023." And if you look at it, the top 2 probably are cognitive skills, analytical skills, and creative skills. The rest of it, probably except number 7, I was a little bit surprised by this ranking. Technical literacy ranks number 7, but then all the rest, if you look at it, seems to be all related to soft skills. Self-efficacy, involves resilience, flexibility, agility, motivation, curiosity, lifelong learning. And this set of 3 seems to be, related to a person's ability to adapt to a disruptive workplace. And nowadays, probably disruption is a new normal almost. And then other skills, dependability, attention to details, empathy, leadership, and social influence and quality control. This set of skills seems to be more related to attitudes while working with others. So these are very important. Okay, and a survey done, quite a while ago, so it was 80 years ago, done by an association of American college and university, and found that employers actually found digital portfolios are very, very helpful. And one important part of a digital portfolio is digital credentials to us. So we try to find a way to help our students to showcase their achievement in soft skills, but digitally. Okay. And according to Chadaha, who is an international scholar and practitioner who specializes in international education and also student mobility, and suggests that digital credentials offer tangible and shareable ways for students to validate their achievement and skills. And then the feature of transparency and portability, and also can also enhance the students' mobility and also career success. So in relation to, or particularly on Beijing and Oliver, I studied from UNESCO, suggests that digital credentials and use Beijing have this 5 affordances And first is a granular, and it allows us to pinpoint, or allow the system to pinpoint the skills and the competencies that a person has achieved, or being able to demonstrate that. And some other speakers will mention it, especially Greg mentioned it, is stackable, because they can be added, it's like a repository, and it can be mapped to other qualification frameworks, and it can be easily understood in terms of eligibility for credits in other systems. And then thirdly, it's evidentiary. It really pinpoints to specific evidence of learning. And then the fourth is personalized, and each person probably have a unique trajectory of learning, and then this kind of a badge can provide evidence of that achievement. And finally, it's machine readable. It allows us to perform, data analysis, and then it not only give us the information about a particular students, and then identify missing piece, and then try to sort of address a gap. It can also allow us as as an institution to identify, if there is any missing gap, or there is any gap in our education program or curriculum where we needed to close or address. So in BU, and so this is the context, and we were looking for some way to help the students to showcase their achievement in soft skills. So in collaboration with Credly in 2001, and we introduced a program. The aim is just to visualize and validate our students' achievement through our courses. Again, we're a language center, so our scope is much narrower. But then, it's not just about language learning. But then, we can only recognize students' achievement on our programs and services and activities. And we hope to help students to showcase their transferable skills. And then at the same time, we try to design of our environment as pedagogy. So we hope that every student can contribute to this environment as an active learner. So no matter whether they are more competent or less competent students. And so, but at the same time, we hope to be able to enhance their career development. So this is where we're from, and then so we try to design our system in different levels. So students have to fulfill the respective requirement in order to claim a badge at each level. Again, it's still a young program. It's still evolving, and then probably you would design a different way. That's how we design it. We used to have only 3 levels: level 1, level 2, level 3, which is a little bit boring and not meaningful. So now we actually turned the program into 4-level program. So we call them bronze and silver and gold and diamond badge. And I'll tell you why. The first level, bronze level, we wanted to recognize students' achievement in required courses as a successful learner. So basically they're passive, they're required to do the course. It's a requirement, not as an active learner. Self-motivated. So that's why the second level, we want to celebrate students' independent learning through voluntary participation in supplementary courses, tutorial programs, workshops as a self-regulated learner. So, and just now previous speakers also mentioned that lifelong learning is important, and that's something that that's why we put it as a higher level. Silver level, gold level, and we want to showcase our students' language competencies as an active and also independent learner and also competent learner, who contributed to activities such as competitions. So they show they have that competence, they voluntarily participate in it, and then winning award is already an evidence of their achievement. Okay, the highest level is we want to award students who actively contributed to coaching service. So they join the service by teaching others. So by serving as a peer tutor or a organizer of a program that help other students learn. Okay, and so it could be by language center and it could be by themselves. So we have a program called the sponsorship program where we just provide a little bit of funding, but then also professional guidance to help them to develop a scheme for their fellow students. So so that they are in that way they learn a lot during the process of designing the program. So they are service provider as well. So we try to map our program onto the learning pyramid. So if you can see, the basic level is a lower level, bronze level. So it's a required course. So they are more passive kind of participation, even though that they can achieve. And the highest level to us is by teaching others. So yeah, it's passive, and then the highest level is active and also contributing, and somewhere in the middle probably is just demonstrating their competence. And that's how we designed it. You may not agree, but then we design our program more in a way that is a model of learner and learning rather than a model of achievement as such. Okay, moving forward, we hope that we're further refine our banding criteria, and at the same time we want to further promote our program and to more students and to more departments as well. And as I said, with the program at this moment, it's still small in scale and also in scope. And we also wanted to, based on the information we obtain from the badges, and hopefully we can help students to build digital portfolios and then identify missing pieces. And then we can link the program to other career development opportunities and to help them to succeed in the job market, hopefully. Yeah. Finally, I would like to acknowledge two important players in this program, and our coordinator, Dr. Simon Wan, and also Nora Wu, who is a teaching assistant. Here is the references. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee, for shedding light on how knowledge can be visualized and validated through micro-credentialing. Next up, we have one of our own, Ms. C.Y. Shing, our Associate Director here at LeePace. Ms. Shing has more than 20 years of experience in the higher education sector, with a particular focus on professional and continuing education. Throughout her career, she has assumed various roles in teaching, curriculum design, and program development and management. Currently, as the Associate Director of HKMU LeePace, Ms. Shing is responsible for overseeing the registry function and ensuring the highest standards of quality assurance of the school. Ms. Shing will present on defining skill sets for effective micro-credentialings and digital badges. Ms. Shing, please.
Okay, good afternoon, and I would like to start by expressing my gratitude. I want to thank all of you esteemed colleagues and also guests for taking time to be here. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share with you our experience in issuing digital credentials at HKMU LeePace. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will address the question of why and how, the purpose behind issuing digital badges, and the process we have adopted to implement it. And to start with, here is some background information to help you better understand our why and how. LeePace is a vocational and professional education and training provider. We provide a vast array of educational opportunities, including full-time post-secondary education, part-time professional and continuing education, and corporate training, tailor-made programs for different government departments, corporates, and also companies. And we also have our community learning programs. We have our Elder Academy and also capacity building knowledge programs. And in delivering our full-time post-secondary programs, we have embraced the total learning experience approach. It's a holistic approach that goes beyond traditional classroom instruction. It encompasses a variety of activities and experiences. We actively encourage our students to engage in internships. Actually, it's a mandatory part of all our full-time programs. Field trips, co-curricular activities, such as online courses, extracurricular activities, and more, to supplement their formal classroom learning. And all these formal Non-formal learning experiences are not just for fun, entertainment, or enrichment. They provide crucial opportunities for students to foster various skills for today's workplace, such as problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, teamwork, etc. And all these non-formal learning experiences help students develop a robust set of competencies that enhance their career readiness and employability. Yet, crucial challenges remain. How can we make all these skills visible to potential employers? And how can we ensure that the competences our students have worked so hard to develop are recognized and valued in the job market? And we found the digital badges an effective solution to the need for skills recognition. These virtual tokens represent specific skills, achievements, and competence a students developed. They offer a way for employers to verify the skills of potential employees and can be displayed on digital platforms, allowing students to showcase their skills to a wide audience, including potential employers. So, to sum up, our purposes of using digital badges are, firstly, to recognize skills acquired by students from non-formal learning experience. And secondly, to showcase these skills to potential employers and thus enhance students' employability. And these are the answer to the question why. And now with that understanding of why behind our decision to issue digital badges, let's move on to how, the implementation. And while we have not yet begun issuing digital credentials, we are set to do so in the coming academic year. And in the next few minutes, I will focus on the initial and the most crucial step in our preparation. That is, identifying the skill sets that deserve recognition and are highly sought after. And the challenge here lies not only in determining which skills are valuable, but also in ensuring that these skills align with the needs of the contemporary world. And to meet this challenge, we turn to the Education 4.0 taxonomy, a product of the World Economic Forum's Education 4.0. We have adopted this taxonomy as our guiding framework in defining the skill sets, ensuring relevance, and also applicability in our rapidly evolving global society. The Education 4.0 taxonomy is a framework for classifying skills needed in the context of Education 4.0, an approach that recognizes the significant impact of the fourth industrial revolution on the future of work and society. Education 4.0 suggests that our existing education systems, designed largely for the industrial age, need to be re-imagined to better prepare our students for the realities of the 21st century. And Education 4.0 taxonomy provides a structured way to categorize and define emerging career and life skills required for Education 4.0. It is a tool for defining and understanding the abilities, skills, attitudes, and values that make up the Education 4.0 framework. And let's have a look at the taxonomy. It is divided into three primary branches: abilities and skills, attitudes and values, and knowledge and information. The first two branches receive special emphasis as they are seen as increasingly essential in future education systems. And the third branch, knowledge and information, is included for completeness. The three primary branches constitute the first level of the taxonomy and are in turn expanded into several second-level sub-branches. And within the first and second levels, the taxonomy branches remain a mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive set of categories. And at the third level, however, the concepts covered are no longer exhaustive and should be understood as the aptitudes that Education 4.0 seeks to build. And these aptitudes have been highlighted by the literature on the future of work and emphasized in consultations with employers, as well as experts and organizations focused on education innovation. And my interpretation of the framework is that the third branch, knowledge and information, is more relevant to the disciplinary knowledge mostly learned in a more structured format in a classroom environment, whereas non-formal learning contributes significantly to the first and second branches, abilities and skills, and attitudes and values. And using this taxonomy, we have asked colleagues responsible for different activities to identify the skills that their activities can help students develop. We design our badges to highlight these skills for potential employers. Let me show some examples on how we align with the taxonomy with designing our badges. Under the guiding approach of a total learning experience, we have a series of activities known as 3I initiatives. The 3 I's stand for inclusiveness, intercultural awareness, and internationalization in place. Activities organized in the past include workshops, seminars, and talks on different cultures like Nordic Christmas, experiencing ethnic minority cultures and sports, African culture experience workshop, etc. And referring to Education 4.0 taxonomy, we can easily identify the skills nurtured by the 3I activities, that is, curiosity, initiative, and global citizenship. We also set the earning criteria of this batch. And this baseline requirement prevents the batches from becoming fragmented and meaningless digital ornament. I think we still have some time, so let's look at 2 more examples. This is one of the curricular activities of our high diploma program in healthcare. We have a series of lectures on the concept of One Health that supplement the formal curriculum. The skills that students will have acquired after attending these lectures are critical thinking, social emotional awareness, curiosity, and also global citizenship. One more example. Students of this healthcare program can also perform community services if they wish. And through these community services, what can be cultivated is collaboration skills, civic responsibility, empathy, and kindness, and also global citizenship. So to conclude, digital badges provide a tangible way to recognize, validate, and display the skills our students gain through non-formal learning experiences. And by aligning the badges with the Education 4.0 taxonomy, we ensure that these skills are relevant to the modern world and beneficial to our students' career prospects. And this approach not only enhances our students' employability, but it also contributes to bridging the skills gap in the job market. And the Education 4.0 taxonomy, in turn, can prompt us to think and plan activities effectively. Whenever we have any idea on new initiative, we will ask ourselves, what skills can students be equipped through this activity? Or are these skills what needed most in the modern world, making students more competitive in the job market and capable of dealing with the challenges in the modern world? In other words, the taxonomy helps us to be more sensitive to what should be offered, to what we should offer to students that will benefit them. And crucially, the implementation of digital batches and e-pays is not a one-off process, but a journey of continuous improvement. We will regularly review and evaluate our approach, considering both feedback from our students and the evolving needs of the job market. And this evaluation will help us to further refine the skill sets we target and the design of our batches. We will make necessary adjustments to ensure that our batches continue to provide real-world value to our students and potential employers. And I hope that I will have the chance to share with you again the progress of our implementation in the future. And that's it for all what I want to share with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shane, for your insight in how to effectively define skill sets through micro-credentialing. Now, it is our great pleasure to invite Dr. Kathleen Chim, our Program Director at HKMU LeePace, who will be leading a moderated discussion with our amazing speakers. I'm sure our participants are looking forward to the discussion and the idea exchanges and to learn more about how micro-credentials could support graduate of the future from the joint experiences. Mr. Chow, Mr. Higgins, Mr. Cho, Dr. Lee, and Ms. Sheng, please.
Hey, thanks, Heidi. Thanks a lot again to all of our speakers today for sharing their projects and perspectives. Thank you so much. So at the registration stage of our event, we did a quick survey and asked our participants to share with us their perception and experience in the use of micro-credentials in their own institution. And the responses show that while some of us are familiar with the concept of micro-credentials, a lot of us don't actually feel particularly confident implementing them. And there are also quite a lot of issues that have been highlighted by our respondents as potential barriers to implementing micro-credentials in their own institution. And so our speakers today have certainly provided a lot of insights and food for thought for all of us. In terms of the three presentations we've seen earlier, our panel speakers, CY, CC, and Jeffrey, they've talked about how the growing relevance and demand for micro-credentials in recognizing some of the most in-demand non-academic skills employers might want to see in graduates. And these are often interchangeably referred to as the 21st century skills, as mentioned by ZY, or the soft skills or human skills, as in CC's project, or graduate attributes, as emphasized by Jeffrey. So altogether, it just goes to show that there is clearly a pressing need to integrate the practical skill-based micro-credentials into student learning in order to help us to add more value to higher education and ultimately to hopefully better prepare our students for the complex future world. So as Jeffrey has shared about how they award digital badges for graduate attributes, and this can be even shown on a transcript that can help them, as Jeffrey said, better help them communicate their achievements to their potential employers. So would Jeffrey, could you please perhaps share more with us how you think your micro-credentials linked to graduate attributes have been or will be received by potential employers? And maybe if you have any plans of working with industry partners in the future. Jeffrey, please.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Catherine, for your questions. To be honest, as a learning advisor at DI, we constantly helping students into developing their learnings to enrich their learning at DI as well. So to be honest, in our future, in the future, we definitely hope that we can liaise with more employers and then to bridge, to show the employers that our students have the initiative to take part in extracurricular learnings. But I think for me, my main focus at the moment is to help students to articulate their experience learned from the activities that they have joined. Now, we sometimes understand that students join different activities for various kind of reasons, but ultimately, what makes it valuable for them is that the experience itself or the learning itself can help them to find jobs in the future. Especially nowadays, a lot of the students, they study their subjects, but they find maybe after 3 to 4 years, they find the job markets require different sets of skill. So it's nothing wrong for them to take the extra stride and to gain the competency that they think which will be beneficial for them. So from my daily interaction with students, sometimes they would like to find jobs not related to their area of study, but still, I will encourage them to make their student life as fruitful as it can, because there are transferable skills definitely that they can gain by participating in all kinds in each particular activities. Sometimes our students, particularly our design students, they start to find their internship from second year of their study. So we need to polish them in terms of enhancing their interview skill. So by having them showing me what they have done, I can able to facilitate them better to build up their confidence while attending the interview. So this is what I have been focusing at the moment. But hopefully in the future, we can communicate to our employers and show them this is what I have for the students, and hopefully we will have some recognitions of our digital badge scheme. That's what we hope for. And also we definitely need to have some budget to enhance our platform, so we can build a platform that maybe link up with the social media platform. So this is what we hope for, definitely. Thank you.
For sure, because linking it up to the social media platform should make things very attractive to our student group, for sure. Yeah. So thank you, Jeffrey. We certainly look forward to hearing more updates on your project in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so another area that we might want to touch on is, and CC might be able to share her views on this, is that the current discussion around micro-credentialing also concerns with the quality assurance aspects. Another important aspect that was also mentioned by our keynote speaker earlier. So would CC please share with us what steps have been taken to create, implement, and ensure the standards of the micro-credentials offered by your project? I mean, this could be any sort of internal QA mechanisms you might have at your institution, or any third-party standards that have been taken into consideration for awarding or designing these micro-credentials. So, Ceci, please.
Thanks, Kathleen. This is a difficult question because first of all, and we focus on softer skills. Softer skills are notoriously difficult to measure, and so in the assessment of students' applications, we very much depend on our subjective judgment. But having said that, as I mentioned in my talk, we put our certification into different levels mapped on the learning model. So we focus on the learning experience rather than achievement of the learning, even though the first level is like a course level, yes, and like any other courses, it has to go through all the QA processes at departmental level, at the faculty level, and so on. But then all the levels up from level 2, level 3, it's all we celebrate the students' voluntary, self-motivated learning. So and then up to the highest level, where students serve, for example, as a peer tutors, they have to teach their peers to make them successful in their learning. So in that way, they contributed to the learning community. Both the tutors and tutees. The tutees, as an active learner, being held by a more competent peer, and they succeed as well. So as I said, we design the environment as pedagogy where everybody has a role to play. And the highest level actually is very difficult to achieve because they have to teach. That involves a whole set of high order skills. They have to be able to organize, to communicate, to negotiate, to lead, and to solve problems, and to be creative in their design, in their teaching. But because, for example, the highest level, because they teach other students, we think that is very important. And so we control quality before they even start. Okay, so we provide training to peer tutors. So they receive training, and then during the process they also receive teachers also share their research experience with research findings with them, and then we also look at the quality of their services through tutees evaluation, questionnaire evaluation. So tutees feedback, as well as tutees performance in courses. So we do regular studies to compare, the tutees who participate in our program and the tutees who don't participate in our program, and to look at their academic performance. And we constantly find that the tutees who join our program, being taught by their peers, actually achieve, higher academic performance in courses. So, we want to say that our program is more a model of learner and learning rather than a model of achievement in a conventional sense. So, and with evidence of the trajectory of students' learning, and also softer skills are recognized.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much for your extra inputs on this. Thank you. Right, so I think by now we are probably having a lot of thoughts and ideas about how we might wish to implement micro-credentials in our own educational context. So the next question might be, where do we start? And another question might be, who should we get involved, and how we can actually find some sort of order in the implementation. So earlier, Jeffrey mentioned about the importance of getting staff on board. So ZY, would you please perhaps share a bit more on your experience of implementing micro-credentials in our school in this respect?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. I think the most important thing is to get colleagues who are in charge of the activities involved in the planning process of issuing digital credentials at the very beginning. And what I have done is I first asked colleagues to identify the skills that the activities will help students to develop. And after collecting the list from them of the activities, I will send them. And after collecting the skills they identified, I then send them the Education 4.0 taxonomy and discuss with them one by one. So if any colleagues actually is now attending this forum can remember, I will talk to them one-on-one and to see if the skills identified were aligned with the taxonomy. And then we finalized the skill sets. The batches will recognize and the contents of the batches, and as well as the baseline requirements together. And I think involving colleagues in the initial step of identifying the skills is essential, as it will help my colleagues better understand why and what they are doing. And it is a serious thinking process. And just as I said in my presentation, it will help my colleagues to be more sensitive to the skills needed in the contemporary world, and plan and offer activities to help students to hone their competencies. So I think just getting them involved in the very beginning is very important. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, CY. Thank you. And thank you once again to all of our panel speakers for highlighting the importance of recognizing these very important non-academic skills. it's something important for us to think about as educators, because I think from time to time again, what we can see in the news reports or the academic literature is that more often than not, employers would say they have a hard time finding graduates with the soft skills their companies or organizations need. And this was also mentioned by Cici in her presentation. And I think a lot of our participants today could probably relate to this growing problem. So thank you once again for all of your contributions and inputs and innovative ideas. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to pass the time back to our MC, Heidi. Heidi, please.
Thank you so much. Well, we've now come to an end of the forum. Thank you to all our speakers for bringing their expertise and experience around the world and engaging in such stimulating, constructive, and open exchanges. We've absolutely enjoyed the discussion and learned a lot from everyone today. Thank you so much again for your generosity and kind support to make this a memorable event. On behalf of Hong Kong Metropolitan University, thank you all again for making it the time in your busy schedules to join us here today. I wish you all a pleasant evening. Goodbye.